Okay, so I'm just gonna make a little video on how I want us to tape our flags this season. I'm gonna go ahead and tape all these practice flags for you guys so you'll have all your practice flags done. But if I'm not there for when you want to put on a different silk for like a parade or a game, if your show, like the actual ones you're gonna use for your show, aren't here yet, or if they are here or whatever, and you need to tape flags and I'm not there to walk you through it, this is how I want you to do it this season, which may be different than how you've done it before. It may be different from how we're going to do it in the future. Every school, every instructor has a different way they want flags done, but this is the way that I want you guys to do this year. So I've got a pole completely naked. There's no tape on it. There's some sticky residue, but nothing. So if you've never seen a naked pole, this is what it looks like. It is hollow all the way through. We've got our two ends. I've tried to rip off as much of the old tape as possible. There's a little bit of residue there, but I really just tried to get them clean as possible. These are the ones that we use. There's different kinds, but we use these. One's going to go at the top and one's going to go at the bottom. Then we have a bolt. There's a lot of different ways you can weigh a flag. The best, most common / accepted way is whatever you have at the top is twice what you have at the bottom. But what I like to do is I like to just weigh the top and leave the bottom empty. So this is a 1 inch, or maybe it's 1 inch or maybe 1 1/4. But this is pretty much the smallest bolt that you use in a flag. A lot of what you'll see is the flag bolt going right into the end. I don't want to do it that way. You're going to take your bolt and you're going to stick it in the end of your pole. And then you're going to tape it down. And what that does is, if I do it like this, that's good enough, and I put it in here, you're going to hear a weird noise. Sometimes it's clinging. This one's not doing it too bad, but if I hit down this way, there's a weird squeaky sound from when this hits the bolt, which hits the pole. I don't want to deal with that. So we tape this to the pole. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your tape, and for this, you want about a 3 inch section. Any more and it sticks out too far and you can see it. Not that it matters because you'll usually have a silk. So you're going to take about a 3 inch section like that. Put your tape right on the middle, or put the bolt right in the middle of your tape, and tape your bolt down onto the pole. And you can stretch your tape a little bit, but you don't want to stretch it too much because it will weaken it. And so I've got one piece of tape taped on. I'm going to take another tape and go the other way so that it creates an X across the bolt. I prefer cutting my tape because the more you stretch, 1, the more it weakens it, and 2, it creates these kind of wrinkly ends that just aren't clean and they don't hold as well. So I'm going to stretch it just a little bit to make sure it's secure and tape it down. And then I'm going to just make sure everything's flat. It doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see, I got a little wrinkle in here. You want to avoid that if you can, but it's not the end of the world. Now, this is secure. When I hit it, there's no sound. And you want to make sure you don't have way too much tape here, because when you put your end on, you don't want a ton sticking out. A little bit's fine because 1, our silk is going to go over it, and 2, we're going to wrap more tape around that anyways, but you don't want more tape than about, a finger. So I don't want my tape sticking out way down here like that. So now that that's done, I'll take this off even though I just put it on. Ha ha ha. I'm going to squeeze my tape down. You don't want to do that too much because it'll pull out your bolt and then it'll stretch your tape. But I did it for an example. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna tape our end caps. You can either do them both at the same time or you can do one now and one later. This one you want about 5 inches or so. You're gonna go through the center, tape it down. Now right here, you're gonna fold it down into your cap. Go ahead and smush it down. Now, I don't know if you can see inside. The more extra tape you have, the gunkier the inside of this thing gets and the harder it is to reach your finger in there and peel out all the old tape. So you don't want to go crazy with the tape. Another reason for that is the more tape you add to your pole, the more it weighs, which can be okay if you want a heavy pole, but we want all of our poles to weigh roughly the same and look nice, so we don't want to go crazy on the tape. Also, tape is expensive and there's no reason to use that much of it. So same thing on the end caps is you want your tape to lie flat. So it's okay if it has little wrinkles, you're putting, you know, this on a round object, it's not going to be perfect. It's okay if your tape is a little bit wonky, but you want it as neat and nice as you can. So I have created an X this way, across, and it comes down. Now I'm gonna go and put the same thing over the open spots. And if you have like a big fat gap like I did there, you might wanna start there so you make sure that your tape covers where you want it to. And one more piece to finish the cross. So I did 2 pieces like this, and now I'm gonna go and do the corners. And so if I cut it a little bit too short or didn't quite put it in the middle, again, it's okay to stretch it a little bit, just so that it fits all the way in. And you wanna make sure that it's long enough to fit all the way inside, because if you have pieces of tape that are sticking out, they could lift up and then your tape will come off. And that is, one, not fun to have to untape your flag and retape your flag. And 2, it can be kind of dangerous because you don't want these things flying off. Even though the bolt is not attached, you still don't want things flying off and potentially hitting somebody or, you know, being a hazard for somebody to trip on. One of the reasons I don't like to put the bolt in the cap is because if this comes untaped and comes flying and hits someone right in the head, that's a bad situation. So by taping the bolt into the pole first, it is less likely to fly off. So now I've gone ahead and just squished this on there as far as it will go. And I will retape it again when I put my silk on. Okay, I went ahead and did the other one, the bottom one, and this will go on right here. But what I'm going to do is put the silk on next. And like I said, every time you pull this one off, it's gonna pull the tape of the bolt. So once this guy is on, I like to leave him on, just because I don't want to have to retape that bolt or worry about the bolt coming loose. So when I put my silk on, I'm gonna take this bottom one off. So I don't want to tape the bottom one on yet until my silk is done. But he can go ahead and sit on there for right now. Taping your tapes is really easy. You probably won't have to do it a lot. But if you ever feel like they're not the right distance, or maybe they're the wrong color, or they came off, or you got a new pole and they don't have, you know, tape on them, they just need to be a foot apart. So you go from the end of your pole, measure a foot, put your tape on, measure a foot, put your tape on. So actually this one has little marks from where the tape residue is. This one's actually right, this one's actually wrong, so I'm gonna fix this one. But for this, it's super easy. And you just wrap it around the pole and squeeze it down. And that's all it is. So I'm gonna measure 1 foot, which is actually right here. So it's a little bit below where this other tape was. Only by about 1/2 inch though. I'm going to take my tape. This only needs to be about, oh, I'd say 3 inches is plenty. Let me stick it on and wrap it around. And if you have more than enough, you just overlap it and squish it down. And that's how you do it. So now that I've got my tapes on, my end tips are done, my bolt is in, I get to take the silk. For your silk, you want to make sure you know which way is down. If one side is longer, as you can see, this side is a little bit longer. That's the side that goes towards the bottom. So just slide her on in. These don't, but if you have flags that have a little loop, sometimes they have kind of like a little ribbon that comes out, that's to put around the pole. I don't like to do that, so I just tuck them in the sleeve and just tape them in there so I don't have to worry about them. So once you got your flag on your pole, then you can go ahead and either tape the flag first or you can put your end cap on. It doesn't matter. One of the main things that you want to worry about when you're actually taping your silk is that you're taping it on straight and you're not taping it on twisted. Not that it makes a huge difference, but it just looks a lot nicer and is a lot easier to work with when the sleeve is laying the same way. See how there's a seam right here? You don't want that seam to be twisted. You want it to be flat. So what I like to do is I start at the top. You can start wherever you want to start, but I start at the top. I'm going to undo my tape. You could cut a piece off or you can just use the whole roll. So I'm going to pinch the sleeve at the end of the sleeve and pull it away from me so I know that the center of the sleeve is centered on the pole. And I'm going to take my tape and I'm going to lay it on the sleeve and overlap very slightly onto the end cap. So I'm holding my sleeve tight, I'm going to pinch it, and I'm going to wrap this tape around. So now I've wrapped it around once, and that is holding the pole into the sleeve. So from here, I'm going to make sure that I wrap it around a few more times, making sure that I'm catching the silk and the end cap, because there's no point just wrapping it around one and not the other. And I'm going to come down a little bit on the silk, and then I'm going to go back up to the end cap until I feel like it is sturdy. And I'm going to cut my tape. And I'm going to fold it down, pulling tightly so it stays secure. Now, as you can see, I have taped my silk and it is looking nice. It's not too pinched in there, it's not wrapped around itself. Sometimes when people tape flags, you can see it's happening a little bit here, but you don't want to tape your flag wrapped. You don't want it that far. You want the sleeve still to be loose. And do the same thing, but you have to be very careful to not get your flag twisted. So I'm actually going to pull it the opposite way that I was holding it there. I'm pinching these right where the flag meets the sleeve. I'm pinching that so that I'm holding it tight and away from me. Well, actually, in this case, I'm holding it towards me. And then I'm going to take my tape. I'm holding it tight. And I'm going to wrap. Careful to catch the sleeve, but not too much. And careful to go on the pole. I'm going to wrap about 4 times. There you go. So now my end cap is secured to my silk, my bolt is secured to my pole, my silk is secured to my pole, my tapes are on. Now all we have to do is secure this end cap to the pole, and that is super duper easy. You just tape around the pole, tape around the end cap, and then tape around the pole again. And if you have any weird lumpy bits, you just kind of want to smush them down just so that they're flat and not sticking up. And that's how you tape a flag. So you can see that my sleeve isn't really twisted. It might be just a little bit, but you want to avoid that as much as possible. So you can see the seam is going straight and it's not curving around the pole. And the longer side of my silk is to the bottom. These silks are a little bit shorter this way than we usually use, but I didn't want to use the nasty red practice silks because they have holes in them and they are disgusting. And instead of buying new practice silks, we can just use these, even though they're a little bit shorter. So do be aware that this is a little bit high for what a tab will normally be. Usually your tab will be about right here, just a few inches lower. I just want to say that it is fine to do some of these steps in a different order, as long as the order you do them in makes sense. So if you want to tape all your end caps first, and then do your bolt, and then your silk, and then your end tapes, or you want to do your tapes first, and then put your silk on, and then do your bolt. Well, actually, no, you shouldn't do your silk and then your bolt. I don't know. As long as your order makes sense, then it's okay to do this in any order. That's just the order that I did it that one time. As I'm doing the rest of these practice silks, I'm going to do it in a different order every time. But it's not the order that I care about as much as the application. So that is just a side note.